We're on public property.
You know what?
Leave us alone. We're on public property.
You know what?
We're on public property.
Spoken to somebody in very high places, and you.
Yes, it was Ray Martin, and later we'll see more of him wrestling with his past. Welcome back to Media Watch. While we've been away, you'll be distressed to discover the world hasn't changed. First, a well-considered report on youth suicide.
Despite a series of public education campaigns, the federal government says more needs to be done to find out why young Australians want to die and how to help them.
A caring response. Sydney's Wentworth Courier pictured Justice Einfeld of the Federal Court as a great windbag. And some lucky lady in Melbourne's in for a gorgeous encounter.
Stunning penthouse pet sought by affluent business executive for indulgent times.
Tonight we're in for a toxic time as we plunge into a wasteland of media deals, backflips and preciousness. When it came to the big cricket scandal, the Herald Sun in Melbourne applied an extravagant spin.
Match fix.
It bellowed in a report which confused allegations against Pakistani cricketers with payments to our own heroes. The big W's weren't amused.
That's in the hands of our lawyers, the headline in the Herald Sun this morning. We've got no further comment on that.
Shane, can we ask you?
I'm the same. That's definitely in the hands of my lawyers.
By the next day, the lawyers had weaved their magic.
Innocent.
Innocence is a beautiful thing. But in the process, the report of the inquiry was buried. Sydney's Daily Telly carried the real story up front.
Warn and War reveal 13 calls from Indian bookmaker.
But where was the real story when it came to Bondi battler and Olympic good time boy Phil Coles?
Old King Cole's merry old time.
Maybe it was one of those merry old phone calls from the lads at SOCOG that produced this backflip with Pike in a later edition that day.
A good man.
Mr. Coles has really responded to the Olympic ideal. He's an excellent man.
And he'd lost his crown. The very next day, accusations against the excellent man were all...
lies, lies, lies.
With the papers frantically flipping their positions, how can we know what's really going on? We've made some interesting discoveries about the reporting of Olympic ideals and deals. Take the Salt Lake scandal, which is now rocking the entire Olympics movement. From the 25th of November last year, the international wires and agencies began to run hot with the news. For nearly 3 weeks, not a line appeared about it in the Australian media.
The president of the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics is ending a week-long visit to Sydney with praise for the work being done on the 2000 Games. International Olympics reporter Ed Hula has more.
Yes, during those weeks, the president of the Salt Lake Olympics was actually in Sydney. And how many local reports pressed him on corruption? None. 2UE's news report was sheer puff. Could that have been due to the fact that 2UE is locked in as a SOCOG supporter and is the official commercial radio broadcaster of Olympic hoopla? Much of the other mainstream media are on team with this great international jamboree. It's the first time in Olympic history that the print media have bought news rights from Olympic organisers. The fuzzy line between reporting the news and boosting the cause was bound to get fuzzier. Fairfax papers were indignant this week about the torch deal.
Sydney's Olympic organisers have sold to Mr. Rupert Murdoch's Australian newspapers exclusive information about Olympic tickets and the Olympic torch relay.
The torch revelation pushed real news off the front page of Sydney's Telegraph to make way for...
a salute to our future.
The excitement also made the front page of Hobart's Mercury and Adelaide's Advertiser. The next day, the Telegraph had some probing analysis.
The space-age Olympic torch that will spread the spirit of the Sydney 2000 Games can withstand tropical downpours and even stay alight underwater.
Why muck around with East Timor, the world economy and the New South Wales election when you've got scoops like that? The ABC and Fairfax expressed concern about what was happening to journalism.
The way journalists are supposed to work is they're supposed to get out there and talk to people and scratch around and try and uncover information, which is news if it is new. And that's not what's happening now.
The crybabies were given short shrift by another of Murdoch's sages.
There are so many positives attached to the Olympics. The negativity we are seeing harms its perpetrators and denigrates us all.
Of course, the torch hoopla is all part of the Olympic ticket marketing bandwagon. News is marketing, marketing is news. Which brings us to the marketing of celebrity journalists. Star writer Antonella Gambotto makes a gruesome meal of her subjects. For example, her profile of footballer Warwick Capper and his wife Joanne.
Her mumbling husband lumbers about in the shadows as she leads me to the kitchen. "You must be dying for a cold drink," she kindly says. "I'll make you a lime cordial."
And on writer Linda Javen.
Under the pink, her thin hair is completely grey. At close range, deforested patches of white scalp are visible.
Miss Gambotto seems wide open about her own personal features.
Is there anything that is taboo, like, for instance, as far as this interview is concerned?
Not really.
When you say not really, I mean, bearing in mind I'm giving you...
I'm very depressed today. My boyfriend has just left me. I've got thrush. Anything else you'd like to know? I mean, you know, it's an open book.
She makes misadventure sound quite thrilling.
In fact, one of the most sensual experiences I've ever had was having my impacted wisdom teeth removed.
If teeth removal's her thing, you'd expect she'd enjoy a bit of rough reviewing. John Van Tiglen of Fairfax's mag Good Weekend had a go.
It comes as a surprise to hear she has not read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, nor Salman Rushdie, although she once dined alongside him in See-Through Silk.
Although Gambotto does have some fans, she inscribed her new book to Colleen McCulloch.
Who let me breathe.
McCulloch told Good Weekend she thinks...
Antonella is Nobel Prize material. I have no doubt about that.
Van Tiglen actually managed to read Miss Gambotto's latest book and was harsh.
So, how autobiographical is it? First, there's no plot, always a clue.
Van Tiglen accused her of being a plagiarist and, heaven forbid, pretentious. Where does the celebrity mauler go when she tastes her own medicine? Straight to the lawyers. They've told Good Weekend in a threatening letter that their client was deeply hurt. How much from the Fairfax chequebook will salve her pain? She can dish it out, but taking it's another matter. Rather like one of our special heroes.
I've seen criticism affect you, though, and annoy you.
Oh, well, I'm very thin-skinned. I wish I was thick-skinned. But if it's personal, it's used, you know, it gets past the gap in the teeth or the dimples, or the so-called wig, and gets into other things, then I feel like I want to go and snot somebody.
In a television pilot made last year, former race around the worlder John Safran tested just how far Ray's skin would stretch. It was a spoof on tabloid tricks.
Whilst you're off at your 9-to-5 job, the work-shy Ray is still lounging around at home. Now today we're going to find out exactly when Ray decides it's finally time to leave and go to the office. Now to keep an accurate time of the exact point when he does leave his home, we've brought along our official timekeeper. Shane Paxton, thanks for joining us.
How are we, John?
Now what time do you have?
We have 9:15 and still no Ray.
9:15 and where, oh where, is Ray?
Remember the Paxtons?
How can three young people who say they're desperate for work knock back good jobs in a tropical paradise and still expect to collect the dole?
Over 7 nights, a current affair gave the 3 Paxton kids an almighty whack, whipping up huge community hostility. Reporter Mike Munro had the youngsters lounging in bed.
Get up. It's 12:12. Get up.
He took them up to a Queensland resort and invited them to apply for jobs they'd be unlikely to take.
Yeah. What's the deal with the haircuts?
It's got to be a haircut.
They harassed Mrs. Paxton.
I'm not saying anymore. Just come out. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be in it anymore.
They bailed up the neighbours.
What do they do at night?
Oh, disturbing the neighbourhood.
Safran didn't hold back.
I'm going to go in. I happen to know that Ray knows who I am, so I've brought along a disguise. My Mike Munro paper mache head. Will you please come out, Mr. Martin? It's 9:30, Mr. Martin. Why aren't you at work? Don't you think you owe ordinary Australians an explanation?
Mike Munro at his most invasive.
Mr. Martin, we want to ask you a few questions. We want to ask a few questions.
I don't care. You're such a sweet person.
Please, just answer the questions. We're on public property.
You know what?
Leave us alone. We're on public property.
You know what?
We're on public property.
I've spoken to somebody in very high places, and you...
Can you blame him? A camera crew staking out his home and catching him wearing that shirt.
Ray, don't. It's not worth it. Don't. Ray. Yeah, Ray, don't. It's not worth it.
Oh,
You're silly because you reached a...
I should be ashamed. I didn't do anything to your family.
Why did you go to me? Did I do anything to the family? Why did my family?
You set me up. You know you set me up.
Oh, Ray was even away when that bloody story was
You put
on.
your head to it. Do you understand what you did to our family?
We have no... Pardon?
What's the joke? What's the joke in walking up my front door? What's the joke in my son goes to school up there? All this...
We will not be
Two
identifying...
different things. Where's the joke with what you did to my family? Where?
We weren't a comedy program. Your mother invited us in there, Shane. That was
She
the
didn't.
point.
You weren't invited there on the day you come and camped at the front.
Of course, the Paxtons didn't have friends in high places, but Ray certainly did.
I've just spoken to Roger Grant at the ABC. He says that it is a very thing the ABC don't do. It's trespassing on property. It's a private matter. It's got nothing.
This is on public property.
No, my house is a property. That is not private.
I saw you yesterday.
Public property. That's
in
my
the
property.
letterbox,
Why go through my garbage? The teachers ring me up a moment ago saying that you're here going through the garbage.
Ray, your show does that all the time. Your show goes through garbage. Your show goes through people's houses.
Which particular garbage? Tell me when. What's this generalisation? Which garbage do you go through?
Generalisation. You know what your show does. Your show pays for stories all the time.
I can't believe that. But who's this Roger Grant? The General Manager, ABC Corporate Affairs, and an old chum of Ray's from his ABC days in New York.
From Roger Grant. Subject, complaint from Ray and Diane Martin. Sensitivity, confidential.
Rog fired off this memo to the head of ABC TV.
I have known the Martins for 30 years and they have rung me to make the complaint as they did not know who to turn to. The Martins regard this incident as an invasion of privacy. If this is so, I would recommend a speedy apology to the Martins would be in order.
Quite right, too. We say goodbye to Ray and leave him to his complaints about intrusive television crews and feral reporters, and to wrestle with his legacy. Good night.